Azóta is a lépcsőn ülök, egy langyos sört szorongatok, de a vállamon a föld. Messze járhatnék, igen, messzi utakon, vigyen a szél. 10.000 mérföld,
10.000 mérföld,
a földeken át, ó, 10.000 mérföld,
10.000 mérföld,
a világ.
10.000 mérföld,
Ó, 10.000 mérföld,
10.000 mérföld,
a földeken át,
a földeken át,
ó, 10.000 mérföld,
10.000 mérföld,
a világ.
The Transylvanian Unitarian Church has a official connection with the English-speaking Unitarians from the 1820s, and from the 1820s onwards, we have a good relation, and due to the aid of the English Unitarians, the first Unitarian student was trained at the London University in 1861, and since we have a student we used to send a student to Manchester School or to the Manchester Home Missionary School later on, of course. And with the beginning of the 20th century, we had the chance to attend different universities, Unitarian theological schools in United States.
Going to England meant to be in touch with the Unitarians of Great Britain, studying in Manchester and Oxford. And going to United States meant that our students had a chance to study either at Harvard or in Chicago at Midville Lombard, and since Balázs Ferenc in the 1920s, we had students going to Starr King.
While accepting the communist era, we had students in both places, both England and United States of America.
We were very lucky that the famous Unitarian faculties, like in England, the Unitarian College Manchester and Manchester College Oxford, or in United States, Midville Lombard Theological School or Starr King Theological School for the Ministry, afford to our ministers and students scholarship.
It is very important to state that Starr King has influenced the life of many ministers. There is a part which can be measured in the influence of Starr King on the theologians and scholars from Transylvania. It can be measured in articles, in books, in the way of thinking of these people. And there is an unmeasurable part which influenced the life of the communities. The way and the style of preaching the many scholars have experienced at Starr King and also in other GTU seminaries. The different pastoral counseling methods, the religious teaching methods were put in practice in the communities and congregations, and this cannot be measured.
Many Balázs scholars had the same experience, that when they came home they wanted to change everything very suddenly in a short time, and then some understood that this cannot be done because we are a different society and because we have a different culture here, and some had very harsh, very bad times because they could not understand that not everything has to be changed in order to be better. In other words, we can say that after that huge enthusiasm we gained at Starr King, when we came home, sometimes the time of depression came, when we realized that we cannot implement everything we have learned there in the United States.
I can tell that there were the most wonderful times of my life. I think that the year I spent at Starr King was so meaningful that I cannot be grateful enough for those who made it possible. I had the chance to go to study after 3 years of practical ministry, and I can tell that everything I've learned in America, everything I've learned at Starr King is still in me, and I am using it right now in my teaching.
At that time, when I've been in United States, I was a minister in a small village, and that is called Mészkő. And Mészkő is the village where Balázs Ferenc, after whom you named this scholarship, was a minister for 7 years, and before he died. So being a minister in that very place where the whole idea came from, and being in Berkeley, at that very place where Balázs Ferenc was studying before, and there were just so many connections, so many things putting together or over each other.
The scholarship offered me a good possibility to get to know the American Unitarian Universalist culture, how religion works there, how these congregations function, and also give me an insight into the history and everyday life of these congregations and UUism.
What changed for me, for myself, during those experiences was that I learned to take decisions, not to be afraid to take decisions, and to always question where I am and why I do what I do. And when we came back, I think that that kind of showed on us that experience and those changes, and even if not directly, but indirectly, it had a lot of effect on people around us in the congregation, the community we were working in.
We here in Transylvania, we used to live in a very narrow way of looking to religion. Everybody was very cautious to its own tradition and denomination. And the first time at Starr King, I learned that actually acceptedness brings more fruitfulness in our spiritual way than being exclusive with others.
It was good to learn about Unitarian Universalists in America, who are much more open and much more liberal that we are here. Actually, I realized that we are very conservative comparing to Unitarian Universalists in US.
What I have learned, of course, it was that there are many viewpoints of life, and back here in Transylvania we should leave behind a little bit our traditional way of thinking and our traditional way of living. In other words, we should be more open, and we should be ready to host many different ideas and many different ways of living.
Here in Transylvania, at the beginning, I was a kind of preacher that was preaching for the pulpit, talking about things that should be said, but I never was able to put myself as an example or my own experience to one or another situation in my life.
It is really important to see that everybody who went to Starr King now is a leader of the Unitarian Church. They are in community leaderships, they are teachers, they are scholars, they got PhDs. So I am very much positive to tell that Starr King had a great influence in the life of the Unitarian Church at the end of 20th and the beginning of 21st century. I myself am very grateful for it, and I thank to those who made it possible to happen.
Those who have had the Starr King experience, they can smile longer than those who have never had the chance to go there. And those who had the experience of UUism in the United States, when they came home, they have like more hope and more faith that our movement or our church can be as lively, as joyful as it is the UU movement or the UU church in the United States.